Hey everyone, I'm Mono Scaling. I'm here to guide you today. If you use this video to drift off to sleep, please tap like, hit subscribe, and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from and what time it is there. Now get comfortable and relax. My name is Jack Lewis. This happened in September 2023 at a campground in Fish Lake National Forest, Utah. I'm writing this down because I need someone to know what happened, even if they don't believe me, especially if they don't believe me. The trip was Marcus's idea. My best friend since third grade, the guy who'd been there through everything. My dad's death, my divorce, the whole mess with losing my job last year. He said we needed to get away, clear our heads, just like the old days before life got complicated. His girlfriend Tanya was coming, and our mutual friend Devin, who none of us had seen in almost 2 years since he'd moved to Portland. We rented an RV from a place in Salt Lake City. Not one of those massive tour bus things. Just a 25-footer with a kitchenette, a bathroom you could barely turn around in, and sleeping space for 4 if 2 people didn't mind the converted dinette. Marcus drove. Tanya navigated. Devin and I sat in back, catching up, him telling stories about his tech startup that had just gone under, me pretending my life was more together than it actually was. The campground was called Pando Shores, named after the famous aspen grove nearby. We'd picked it because it was cheap and because none of us had ever been to that part of Utah. The website showed pictures of RV sites spaced apart by trees, a lake in the background, mountains rising up. It looked peaceful, remote, exactly what we needed. We arrived around 4 p.m. on a Thursday. The ranger station was a small log building with a woman in her 60s behind the desk. She had gray hair pulled back tight and reading glasses on a chain around her neck. The kind of person who looked like she'd been doing the same job for 30 years. Site 14, she said, handing Marcus the paperwork. Down the main road, take the second left. It's the 4th site on the right. You folks staying long? Just the weekend, Marcus said, leaving Monday morning. She nodded, but something about her expression changed, just for a second. Well, you enjoy your stay. Weather's supposed to be clear. Gets cold at night, though. We're at 600 feet. Any good hiking trails? Tanya asked. Plenty. There's a map in the packet. The ranger paused. Stay on marked trails. People get turned around out here more than you'd think. We thanked her and left. The campground was bigger than I'd expected. Maybe 40 or 50 sites spread out through the aspens. We passed a few other RVs, a couple of tent sites, but it wasn't crowded. Most of the sites looked empty. End of season, I figured. Site 14 was in a decent spot, tucked back from the main road with trees on 3 sides. Marcus backed the RV in while I directed him. Devin immediately opened a beer. Tanya started setting up the outdoor chairs and a small folding table we'd brought. This is perfect, Marcus said, killing the engine. No cell service, no internet, no nothing, just us and nature. He was right about the cell service. None of us had signal. Devin had one of those satellite messengers in case of emergency, but otherwise we were cut off. It felt good, honestly, like stepping back in time. We spent the evening drinking, grilling hot dogs and burgers on the campground's fire ring, talking about old times. The sun set early behind the mountains and the temperature dropped fast. By 9 p.m. we were wearing jackets. By 10, we'd moved inside the RV with the heater running. That's when we heard it the first time. We were playing cards, some stupid game Devin remembered from college. Marcus was dealing when we all went quiet at the same moment. There was a sound outside. Distant, but distinct. Like something metal being dragged across pavement, or through gravel. It scraped and rattled, then stopped. Then started again. What the hell is that? Tanya asked. Marcus went to the window but couldn't see anything. Our site was dark except for the RV's interior lights. The trees were just black shapes against a slightly less black sky. Probably someone with a trailer, Devin said. Unhitching or something. At 10 p.m., I said. Maybe they just arrived late. The sound continued for maybe another minute, then stopped. We waited, listening. Nothing. See? Devin said. Nothing to worry about. We kept playing cards, but the mood had shifted. Small talk, forced laughs. Around midnight, we called it. Devin took the bunk over the cab. Marcus and Tanya got the bedroom and back. I was on the converted dinette, which was about as comfortable as sleeping on a park bench, but I'd drawn the short straw. I lay there in the dark, listening to the RV creak and settle. Outside, wind moved through the aspens. I kept thinking about that scraping sound, the way it had just stopped, like someone had set something down, or picked it up. I must have fallen asleep eventually because I woke up confused and disoriented. The RV was freezing. I checked my phone. 3:06 a.m. I'd forgotten to keep the heater on low. I got up to adjust it, and that's when I heard the sound again. Closer this time. Much closer. It was the same scraping, dragging sound, but now it was right outside the RV, moving slowly along the driver's side. Metal on gravel, rhythmic, deliberate. I stood frozen by the heater controls, listening to it pass along the length of the RV from front to back. When it reached the rear where Marcus and Tanya were sleeping, it stopped. I waited. My heart was doing things that probably weren't healthy. Then it started again, moving back the other direction. Along the passenger side this time, circling the RV. I moved to the window and looked out, but I couldn't see anything. The campground had no lights. The moon was hidden behind clouds, just darkness and the shapes of trees and the scraping sound moving past the window, maybe 15 feet away. When it completed the circle and reached the front again, it stopped. I stood there for 5 minutes, maybe 10, waiting for it to start again. It didn't. Eventually, I got back under my blanket, but I didn't sleep the rest of the night. In the morning, I told the others what I'd heard. Marcus and Tanya had slept through it. Devin said he'd heard something but figured it was an animal. An animal dragging chains? I said. I didn't say chains. You said chains. It sounded like chains, like someone dragging something metal. Maybe it was a ranger doing rounds, Tanya suggested, checking on sights. At 3 a.m., circling our RV, Marcus held up his hands. Dude, you were half asleep. Sounds get weird in your head when you're not fully awake. I've done it a million times. I wanted to argue, but what was I going to say? I knew what I'd heard, but I also knew how it sounded. We'd driven 6 hours to get here. I wasn't going to ruin the weekend because of some noise in the night. We made breakfast and tried to plan the day. The map showed a trail that looped around the lake about 5 miles. Easy hike, scenic views. We decided to do that in the morning, then spend the afternoon lounging around the campsite. The trail was nice. Aspens were starting to turn yellow and orange. The lake was calm, reflecting the mountains. We saw a few other hikers, exchanged nods and hellos, normal stuff. By the time we got back to the RV around 2 p.m., I'd almost convinced myself that Marcus was right. I'd been half asleep. Sounds do weird things at night. We spent the afternoon reading and napping and drinking. Devin was grilling steaks for dinner when the ranger from the station drove by in a pickup truck. She slowed down when she saw us, rolled down her window. Everything okay here? She asked. Yeah, great, Marcus said. Beautiful spot. She nodded, but her expression was strange. Concerned, maybe. You folks hear anything unusual last night? The four of us looked at each other. Like what? I asked. Oh, we get reports sometimes. Wildlife, mostly. Bears this time of year. Getting ready for winter. Just wanted to make sure you're securing your food properly. We are, Marcus said. Everything's locked up. Good, good. She put the truck back in gear, then paused. You staying through the weekend? That's the plan. Well, if you need anything, the ranger station closes at 5, but there's an emergency number on the sign. Don't hesitate to call if something comes up. She drove off before we could ask what she meant by something comes up. That was weird, Tanya said. She's probably just bored, Devin said. End of season, not much happening. She's making rounds to feel useful. We ate the steaks, polished off another 6-pack, played more cards. Around 10 p.m. we heard the sound again. This time, we all heard it clearly. It was coming from the woods behind our site, maybe 50 yards out. The same dragging, scraping sound, but intermittent now. Drag, stop, drag, Stop. Like someone pulling something heavy through the underbrush. Okay, I hear it now, Marcus said. What is that? We went outside, stood by the fire ring, listening. The sound continued, neither getting closer nor moving away, just out there in the trees, constant and rhythmic. Should we go check it out? Devin asked. Fuck no, Tanya said immediately. Are you insane? It's probably just another camper, Devin said. Maybe they're having trouble with something. Then they can ask for help, I said. I'm not going out there. We stood listening for maybe 10 minutes. The sound never changed, never stopped. Eventually, Marcus said we should go back inside, lock the doors, call it a night. It's probably nothing, he said, but his voice had that forced quality people get when they're trying to convince themselves. We went inside. The sound continued for another hour, then stopped. I checked my phone. 11:17 p.m. I made note of the time, though I'm not sure why. Maybe I wanted to be able to report it if something happened. Maybe I just needed to feel like I had some control over the situation. Sleep came hard again. I kept drifting off and jerking awake, thinking I'd heard the sound start up. Around 1 a.m. I gave up and just lay there staring at the ceiling. At 3:06 a.m. exactly, I know because I checked my phone, the sound started again, right outside the RV, circling it. This time I wasn't alone. I heard Marcus get up in the back bedroom. Devin climbed down from the cab bunk. We all converged in the main area, none of us speaking, just listening to that scraping, dragging sound move around the RV. Slow and methodical. Once around, twice around, 3 times. On the 4th circuit, Devin grabbed the flashlight and unlocked the door. Devin, don't, Tanya hissed, but he was already outside. I heard his footsteps on the gravel, heard him say, "Hello? Who's out here?" The dragging sound stopped immediately. Marcus and I looked at each other, then pushed out through the door after him. Devin was standing about 10 feet from the RV, shining his flashlight into the trees. The beam caught aspen trunks, undergrowth, shadows. Nothing else. "There's nobody here," Devin said. "Then what was making the sound?" I asked. "I don't know, man. But there's nobody here now." We searched the area around the RV. The beam of Devin's flashlight swept back and forth. The ground was mostly pine needles and fallen leaves. Hard to see tracks. But near the back of the RV, Marcus knelt down. "Look at this," and he said. There were marks in the dirt. Long, parallel grooves like something heavy had been dragged through. They led from the woods, circled the RV, and led back into the woods. "What the hell makes marks like that?" Tanya asked. She'd come outside despite her fear. None of us had an answer. The marks were too regular to be from an animal, but too strange to be from any kind of vehicle or trailer. They just were. "I'm calling the ranger," Marcus said. He went inside and got the emergency number from the packet, dialed it on his phone. We stood around, waiting, but he hung up after a minute. "No signal, I forgot." "We have the satellite messenger," Devin said. "And tell them what? That we heard a noise and found some marks in the dirt? They're going to think we're paranoid idiots." "We could drive to the ranger station," I suggested. "It's 3:30 in the morning. It's closed. And honestly, what are they going to do?" He had a point. We went back inside, locked the door. Nobody said it out loud, but we were all thinking the same thing. Something was out there, and it knew where we were. The rest of the night passed without incident. When the sun came up, we were all still awake, sitting around the dinette table, exhausted and wired on too much coffee. "We should leave," Tanya said. "Just pack up and go." "And go where?" Marcus asked. "It's Friday morning. We took days off work for this. We're here until Monday." "Marcus, something is wrong here. You know it." "What I know is that we heard some sounds and found some weird marks. That's it. We don't even know what we're dealing with. Could be a prank. Could be some asshole local trying to scare the tourists. Or it could be something dangerous," I said. Marcus looked at me. "You really want to leave? Drive 6 hours back to our shitty apartments because we got spooked?" I didn't answer because I didn't know. Part of me wanted to leave immediately. Part of me agreed with Marcus. We'd let our imaginations run wild. Come Monday, we'd drive home and laugh about how we almost let some sounds and marks ruin our weekend. Devin broke the silence. Let's go to the ranger station when it opens. Ask them about it, see what they say. Then we can decide. We agreed on that. At 8 a.m., Marcus and I drove down to the station in his car. The same woman was behind the desk. Can I help you, gentlemen? Marcus explained what we'd heard, the dragging sounds, the marks around our RV. She listened without interrupting, her face neutral. What site are you in again? She asked. 14. Something flickered across her face. I see. And you heard these sounds both nights? Yes. She was quiet for a moment, then pulled out a file from under the desk, flipped through some papers. I'm going to be straight with you. We've had reports from that site before, similar to what you're describing. Reports of what? I asked. Disturbances, sounds. We've investigated multiple times, never found anything conclusive. But you found something, Marcus said. She hesitated. 3 years ago, a couple stayed in Site 14. They left in the middle of the night. Said they heard something outside their tent. When we investigated the next morning, we found marks around their site, similar to what you're describing. And nothing. We never determined what caused them. Wildlife was the best explanation we could come up with. Black bears sometimes drag logs or dig through the ground. Can make strange marks. Did it sound like chains to them? I asked. The ranger met my eyes. They said it sounded like someone dragging something metal. Yes. So you know this happens and you still rent out that site? Sir, we've had people stay in Site 14 dozens of times since then without incident. Whatever this is, it's not constant, it's not predictable. But you know about it. We know people have reported unusual sounds in that area. That's all I can tell you definitively. Marcus and I drove back in silence. When we got to the RV, Devin and Tanya were sitting outside. What did she say? Tanya asked. Marcus told them. Tanya immediately said we should leave. Devin was more measured. So it's happened before, but not consistently. Maybe it really is just an animal. Or acoustics. Sound bounces weird in mountains. Or maybe it's something we should get the fuck away from, Tanya said. We argued about it for an hour. Eventually we compromised. We'd stay one more night. If anything happened again, we'd pack up first thing in the morning and leave. Tanya wasn't happy, but she agreed. The day passed without incident. We stayed close to the RV, nobody wanting to wander far. Every sound from the woods made us jump. A branch falling, a bird call, the wind picking up. Around 6 p.m., another RV pulled into the site next to ours, Site 15. A retired couple, maybe in their 70s. They waved as they set up. Marcus walked over to say hello, came back with a strange look on his face. What? I asked. I asked them if they'd stayed here before. They said they come every year. Same week, same site. And I asked if they'd ever heard anything unusual. The wife said no, but the husband got this look. Like he wanted to say something, but his wife shut him down. Meaning what? Meaning maybe we're not crazy. That night we stayed inside the RV as darkness fell. Nobody suggested going out. We made dinner on the little stove, ate quietly, tried to watch a movie on someone's laptop until the battery died. By 10 p.m. we were all just sitting there, waiting. At 10:47 the sound started. Different this time. Not behind us in the woods. Directly on the road in front of our site. The scraping, dragging sound, but louder than before. Closer. Moving slowly past our site, heading deeper into the campground. It's on the road, Devin whispered. We crept to the windows, looked out. The road was dark. The sound continued, moving away from us. We watched, but couldn't see anything, just heard it, that rhythmic scraping growing fainter. Then it stopped. We waited. At 11:03 we heard a scream. It came from somewhere deeper in the campground. A man's voice, sharp and terrified. It cut off abruptly, and then there was nothing. Just silence, and the sound of our breathing inside the RV. Jesus Christ, Tanya said. Marcus grabbed the satellite messenger. I'm calling for help. He activated the SOS function, sent an emergency message. We sat there not speaking, waiting for a response. The device said it had transmitted, but there was no way to know if anyone received it or when they'd respond. At 11:34, we heard footsteps outside, slow, deliberate, walking around the RV. But these weren't the dragging sounds. These were actual footsteps, human footsteps. Hello? Marcus called out. Is someone there? No response. The footsteps continued, circling the RV. Maybe it's a ranger, Devin said. Maybe they got our message. Then why aren't they answering? The footsteps stopped at the door. We all stared at it, waiting for a knock, for someone to identify themselves. But there was nothing, just silence and the knowledge that something, was standing right outside our door. After maybe 5 minutes, the footsteps started again, moving away from the RV, back toward the road. We need to see who that is, Marcus said. Are you insane? Tanya grabbed his arm. If it's a ranger, we need to talk to them. If it's not. He didn't finish the sentence. Before anyone could stop him, he unlocked the door and pushed it open. I followed him out, Devin right behind me. Tanya stayed inside, watching from the window. The campground was dark. No moon, no stars. The kind of darkness that feels physical, like it has weight. Marcus turned on his phone flashlight. Devin did the same. I used the beam from Devin's phone since mine was dead. Hello, Marcus called out. We're here, we called for help. Is someone there? Nothing. We walked toward the road, our lights cutting weak paths through the darkness. At the edge of our sight, Marcus stopped. There, he said. His light was pointed at the ground. In the dirt, clear as day, were footprints, bare footprints, human, leading from our RV toward the road. We followed them. They led us onto the pavement, then veered off onto the opposite side, toward the woods. We hesitated at the tree line. We should go back, I said. Just a little further, Marcus said. We entered the woods, following the prints. They were harder to see now in the leaves and pine needles, but they were there, leading deeper into the trees, away from the campground. After maybe 50 yards, we found something. It was Devin's backpack, the one he'd left in the RV. We all stared at it, not understanding. Devin reached for it, but Marcus stopped him. Don't touch it. That's my pack. How did it get out here? I don't know, but we need to go back, right now. We turned around, and that's when we realized we couldn't see the lights from the campground. We'd only walked 50 yards, maybe less, but the darkness had closed in behind us. The trees looked the same in every direction. Which way did we come from? Devin asked. None of us knew. Marcus pointed his light in what he thought was the right direction, but everything looked the same. Dark tree trunks, undergrowth, darkness beyond the flashlight beams. Okay, don't panic, Marcus said. We'll just walk straight. We have to hit the campground eventually. We walked. 5 minutes, 10. The trees never changed. The ground never sloped. We should have hit the road or another campsite or something. But there was nothing. Just more woods, stretching endlessly in every direction. We're going in circles, Devin said. No, we're not. We've been walking straight. Then why haven't we found anything? That's when I heard it. Behind us, the dragging sound. But not like before. This was different. Faster. Like whatever was making it had picked up speed. Like it was coming toward us. Run, Marcus said. We ran, crashing through undergrowth, branches whipping at our faces, the flashlight beams bouncing wildly. The dragging sound followed us, getting closer. I could hear it clearly now, not just metal on ground, but something else too. Something that might have been breathing if breathing could sound wet and labored and wrong. Devin fell. I heard him go down behind me, heard him curse. I stopped, turned back, but Marcus grabbed my arm. Keep moving. Devin's down. I'm okay, Devin shouted. He was getting up, brushing himself off. "I'm okay, go." We kept running. The dragging sound was right behind us now. I could feel it more than hear it, a presence in the darkness. My lungs burned. My legs felt like they were going to give out. Then suddenly we broke through the tree line. We were back at the campground, the RV lights visible 30 yards away. We sprinted for it, dove inside, slammed and locked the door. Tanya was crying. "What happened? You were gone for hours." "Hours?" Marcus checked his phone. "We were gone 20 minutes. "No," Tanya said. "No, you left at midnight. It's almost 4 a.m. We all checked our phones. She was right. Somehow, we'd lost nearly 4 hours. "Where's Devin?" Tanya asked. We turned around. Devin wasn't there. "He was right behind us," I said. "He fell, but he got up. He was right behind us." Marcus and I went back to the door, looked out. The campground was empty. No sign of Devin. "Devin!" Marcus shouted. "Devin!" Nothing. We stood there, calling his name, but there was no response. Finally, a light came on in the RV next door. The elderly husband stepped out in his bathrobe. "What's going on?" he asked. "Our friend," Marcus said. "He's missing. We were in the woods and we got separated and now we can't find him." The man's face went pale in the RV light. "You went into the woods? At night?" "Yes, we had to. You don't go into the woods at night. Not here. Not ever." He looked genuinely frightened. "How long has he been gone?" "We just got back minutes ago." "Then he might still be findable. You need to get help. Real help. Call the rangers, the police, whoever, but don't go back in there yourselves." He went back inside his RV and we heard the lock click. We tried calling on the satellite messenger again, but there was no response. No confirmation that anyone had received our messages. Marcus wanted to go back out, search for Devin, but Tanya and I convinced him to wait until sunrise. It was stupid to go stumbling around in the dark. We'd just get lost again. We sat in the RV waiting for dawn, checking the windows every few minutes. The dragging sound came and went throughout the night. Sometimes close, sometimes distant. Once, we heard what might have been Devin's voice calling from far away, but we couldn't be sure. It might have been wind. It might have been our imagination. Might have been something else. When the sun finally came up, we went out to search. The elderly couple was already packed up and pulling out of their sight. They didn't look at us, didn't say goodbye, just drove away like they couldn't leave fast enough. We found Devin about an hour later. He was sitting on a log about 100 yards into the woods, right along the tree line. Just sitting there, staring at nothing. His clothes were dirty and torn. His face was scratched. But he was alive. "Devin!" Marcus ran to him. "Jesus, man, where were you? We looked everywhere." Devin turned to look at us. He smiled. It wasn't Devin's smile. I'd known Devin for years. I knew his smile, his expressions, the way he moved. This wasn't right. The smile was too wide, too fixed. His eyes were wrong. Not the color, but something about the way they focused. Or didn't focus. "I'm fine," Devin said. "I just got turned around." "You've been gone all night," Tanya said. We were terrified. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to worry you. I got confused, but I'm fine now. Everything's fine." We walked him back to the RV. He moved stiffly, like he wasn't quite comfortable in his own body. At one point, he stopped and tilted his head, listening to something we couldn't hear. Then he kept walking like nothing had happened. Back at the RV, we tried to get him to tell us what happened, where he'd been, what he'd seen. He just kept saying he got confused, he got turned around. He was fine now. His smile never wavered. His eyes never quite met ours. "We're leaving," Marcus said. "Right now. Pack everything up." We moved fast, throwing things into the RV, not bothering to organize or sort. Devin helped, but his movements were wrong. Too precise. Too mechanical. Like he was copying what he thought helping should look like but didn't really understand it. We were almost done when the ranger pulled up. The same woman from the station. She got out of her truck slowly, her expression grim. "We got your emergency calls," she said. Several of them. What's going on? Marcus explained everything. The sounds, the woods, Devon going missing and coming back. She listened, her face growing more concerned with each detail. "Let me see your friend," she said. Devon was inside the RV. The ranger climbed in, talked to him for a few minutes. We couldn't hear what they said. When she came back out, her face was ashen. "You need to leave," she said quietly. "Right now. Get in your vehicle and drive away and don't come back." "What's wrong with him?" Tanya asked. "I don't know. But whatever came back out of those woods, that's not your friend anymore." "What do you mean?" "That's not... I mean exactly what I said. Look at his eyes. Really look. That's not a person looking back at you." We looked through the RV window. Devon was sitting at the dinette, still smiling that fixed smile. He waved at us. His hand moved wrong. The fingers bent at angles they shouldn't. "What do we do?" Marcus asked. "You take him with you. You don't leave him here. But you be careful. And when you get to a hospital, you have them look at him. All of him. Make them do a thorough examination. And tell them what? Tell them whatever you want. But don't let that thing out of your sight until someone with more authority than me can deal with it." She got back in her truck and drove away without another word. We stood there, looking at each other, not knowing what to do. Finally, Marcus said we had to go. We had to get out of here and figure out the rest later. We got in the RV. Devon sat in back, still smiling. Marcus drove. Nobody spoke. We just wanted to get away, to put miles between us and Fish Lake National Forest and whatever had happened there. But about 5 miles down the road, we realized we had a problem. Every turn Marcus made led us back to the campground. We'd drive for 10 minutes, 15, following the road that should have taken us to the highway. Then we'd round a bend and see the ranger station again, the same fork in the road, the sign pointing back to Pando Shores. "What the fuck?" Marcus said. "You're going in circles," Tanya said. "I'm following the road. There's only one road." We tried again. Same result. And again. And again. Every time we ended up back at the ranger station. The GPS on Marcus's phone showed us moving, showed us taking different routes, but the physical reality was the same. We kept coming back. On the 4th attempt, Devon spoke from the back. "Maybe we're not supposed to leave yet," he said. We all turned to look at him. He was still smiling. "What did you say?" Marcus asked. "Maybe there's something we're supposed to do first." "Like what?" Devon's smile widened. "I don't know, but I can feel it. Something pulling, something that wants us to stay." "Jesus Christ," Tanya whispered. Marcus pulled over. We sat on the side of the road trying to figure out what to do. The satellite messenger had gone dead, wouldn't power on. Our phones had no signal. We were trapped in a loop, unable to leave, with something wearing Devon's face sitting in the back of the RV. That's when I made a decision. Maybe it was stupid. Maybe it was the only choice. "I'm going back," I said. "What?" Marcus stared at me. "To the woods, to where we found Devon. Something happened there. Something took him and brought back. That. Maybe if I go back, I can figure out what it wants, how to fix this." "Jack, that's insane. We're already in an insane situation. We're trapped here. Something has Devon or took Devon or... I don't know. But doing nothing isn't working." Tanya was crying again. Marcus looked torn. Finally, he said, "I'm coming with you." "No. Stay here with Tanya. Keep an eye on Devon. If I'm not back in 2 hours, then what? We're stuck here either way." "Then I don't know. Just wait for me." I got out of the RV before anyone could argue further, started walking back toward the campground. It was fully daylight now, almost noon. The forest looked different in the sun, less threatening, almost normal. But I knew that was a lie. Daylight didn't change what lived in those woods. I found the spot where we discovered Devon. The log was still there. I stood looking at it, trying to understand. What had happened to him in those missing hours? What had he seen? What had changed him? The dragging sound started behind me. I turned. It was closer than it had ever been. Maybe 20 feet away, behind a cluster of aspens. I could almost see something, a shape in the shadows, moving with that same rhythmic scraping motion. "What do you want?" I asked. My voice shook. The dragging stopped. For a long moment, there was silence. Then I heard a voice. Devon's voice. But Devon was in the RV, half a mile away. "Help," the voice said. "Please help me." I took a step toward it, another step. The shape in the shadows moved, and I caught a glimpse of something. A face. Devon's face. But wrong. Twisted. Like someone had tried to make Devon's face out of clay and given up halfway through. "Please," it said again. It took me. It's wearing me. I'm still here. I'm still here. I backed away, my heart racing. "Where are you? Where are you, really?" "In the dark. It keeps me in the dark. It wears me during the day. Please, you have to help me." The dragging sound started again, but this time it was moving away, deeper into the woods. The voice called out again, fainter now. "Please, please don't leave me here." I ran, not toward the voice but away, back to the road, back to the RV. I don't know what the right choice was, maybe there wasn't one. But I couldn't go deeper into those woods. I couldn't face whatever was in there. When I got back to the RV, Marcus and Tanya were waiting outside. Devon was still inside, still smiling. "What happened?" Marcus asked. I heard him, the real Devon. He's still out there, that thing in the RV. It's not him. It's something else wearing his face. "So what do we do?" I didn't have an answer. We stood there on the side of the road, trapped in a loop we couldn't escape, with a copy of our friend sitting in the RV and the real one, maybe, lost in the woods. Eventually, Marcus tried to drive again. This time, we made it farther. Past the ranger station, onto what should have been the highway. We drove for an hour, GPS showing us getting closer to the main road. Tanya was crying with relief. Marcus was focused on the road. I kept watching Devon in the mirror. He wasn't smiling anymore. He was just sitting there, looking out the window, his expression blank. No, not blank. Empty. Like someone had unplugged the person inside and left just the shell. When we finally hit the highway, Tanya let out a sob. We'd made it. We were out. We kept driving, putting distance between us and the forest, and nobody said anything for an hour. Finally, Devon spoke. "Where are we going?" "Home," Marcus said. "We're going home." "Home," Devon repeated. He said it like he was testing the word, trying to understand its meaning. Then he smiled again. That too wide smile. "Good. I've always wanted to see your homes. The thing that looked like Devon has been living with me for 3 months now." We dropped Marcus and Tanya off first, then drove back to my apartment. It followed me inside like it belonged there. That first night, I locked myself in my bedroom and pushed furniture against the door. But when I woke up, the furniture was moved aside and it was sitting in a chair next to my bed, watching me sleep. "I won't hurt you," it said. "I'm Devon. I'm your friend." But it's not. I know it's not. The real Devon is still out there, in those woods in the dark, like he said. Sometimes at night I think I can hear him calling for help. Even though that's impossible, I'm hundreds of miles away. The thing tries to act normal, it goes through the motions of living, but it makes mistakes. It forgets to blink for minutes at a time. It stands too still when it thinks I'm not looking. Last week I saw it trying to drink water. It poured the glass over its face instead of into its mouth, then realized its error and corrected itself. I called Marcus yesterday. Tanya's still with him, still in his apartment. Neither of them have seen anything strange since we left the forest, but they're planning to move. Different city, different state. They want to get as far away as possible. I asked Marcus if he thought Devon was really still out there. "I don't know," he said. "But if he is, there's nothing we can do for him. We barely made it out ourselves." He's right. I know he's right. But I keep thinking about that voice in the woods, begging for help. And I keep looking at the thing that wears Devon's face, and I wonder, if it came for Devon, will it come for the rest of us too? Sometimes, late at night, I hear the dragging sound outside my apartment. I live on the third floor, so that should be impossible, but I hear it anyway. Scraping, dragging, circling the building, getting closer. And the thing that looks like Devin just sits in the living room, smiling in the dark, waiting for something I don't understand. I'm writing this down because I need someone to know what happened. Because I think whatever took Devin is still connected to this thing in my apartment. Because I hear that dragging sound getting closer every night. Because last night when I looked in the mirror, I saw my reflection blink before I did. My name is Jack Lewis, and I think it's coming for me next. My name is David Chen. I'm writing this because I need someone to know what happened in Ocala National Forest last October, and because my therapist says putting it down might help me separate what was real from what wasn't. I'm still not sure I can. Claire and I had been together for 6 years when we decided to take the RV trip. Things had gotten tense between us, not fighting exactly, but that slow erosion where you stop really talking and start just existing in the same space. She worked late constantly at the hospital, I buried myself in freelance coding projects, and we'd look up one day and realize we hadn't had an actual conversation in weeks. The RV rental was her idea. "Let's just go somewhere," she'd said one Sunday morning, showing me listings on her phone. No plan, no schedule, just us and the road. I picked Ocala National Forest because it was warm in October, and the reviews mentioned how isolated the campsites were. We needed isolation. We needed to remember how to be around each other without the buffer of routine and screens. We left on a Thursday morning, October 12th. I remember the date because it was my mom's birthday. She'd been dead 3 years by then. Early onset dementia. She was 54 when it took her, and the last 2 years she didn't know who I was. Claire knew I always got quiet around that date, and I think that's why she'd pushed so hard for this trip right then. The drive down from Atlanta took 7 hours. Claire navigated while I drove our rented 25-footer, and for the first few hours things felt good. Easy. We talked about stupid stuff, whether we should get a dog, whether her brother was going to propose to his girlfriend, what we'd do if we won the lottery. Normal couple talk, the kind we'd stopped having. We reached the forest around 4 p.m. The main office was a small wooden building that looked like it hadn't been updated since the 80s. A teenage kid with acne checked us in, barely looking up from his phone. "You're in Site 47, he said, sliding a printed map across the counter. "Down Road C, about 2 miles in. It's pretty far from everything else." "That's what we want," Claire said, squeezing my hand. The kid looked at us then, just for a second, and I could swear there was something in his expression. Not quite concern, but close to it. Then he looked back down. "Bathroom's back at the main area here. No cell service once you get about a mile in. If you need anything, there's an emergency phone near the trailhead." We thanked him and headed out. Road C was barely a road, more like a dirt path with ruts worn in by tires. Trees pressed in on both sides, live oaks dripping with Spanish moss that scraped against the RV's roof. Claire played music on her phone while we still had service, some indie playlist she'd been into lately. Site 47 was exactly what the reviews promised. Isolated, surrounded by dense forest, with just enough clearing for the RV and a fire pit. The nearest neighbor site wasn't visible through the trees. It was perfect. We spent the first evening setting up and cooking dinner on the portable grill Claire had insisted on bringing. She made burgers while I tried to level the RV, and we ate watching the sunset filter through the canopy. It was the most relaxed I'd seen her in months. "This is good," she said, leaning against me. "We should do this more often." "We should," I agreed. That night, lying in the RV's small bed, I felt cautiously optimistic. Maybe we could fix this. Maybe we just needed to remember we actually liked each other. I woke up around 2 a.m. to the sound of Claire talking. At first I thought she was on her phone, but when I opened my eyes, she was sitting on the edge of the bed looking out the window. The RV's interior was dark except for the faint glow of our battery-powered lantern. "Claire?" I said. She turned, and in the dim light her face looked strange, soft, almost dreamy. "Did you hear that?" she asked. "Hear what?" "Someone calling." I listened. Outside, the forest was doing its night thing. Insects. The occasional rustle of something moving through undergrowth, the creak of trees. Nothing that sounded like calling. "I don't hear anything," I said. She stared at the window for another moment, then shook her head and lay back down. "Sorry, must have been dreaming." But she didn't sound convinced. The next morning, Friday, we decided to hike one of the shorter trails, just 3 miles out and back. Claire made coffee while I checked my phone one last time before we lost service. My sister had texted asking how the trip was going. I sent back a thumbs up and turned the phone off. "Ready?" Claire asked, shouldering her small backpack. We locked up the RV and headed toward the trailhead marker we'd seen the day before. The morning was beautiful, cool and clear, with that particular quality of light you only get in forests. Green and gold and soft. About half a mile in, we met her. She was sitting on a fallen log just off the trail, wearing a faded floral dress and hiking boots that had seen better days. She looked to be in her 70s, with white hair pulled back in a neat bun and a face so lined it was hard to make out her features clearly. "Morning," she said brightly, as if she'd been waiting for us. "Morning," Claire replied. I just nodded. "Beautiful day for a hike," the woman continued. "You folks camping nearby?" "Site 47, Claire said. "Just got in yesterday." The woman's smile widened. "Oh, Site 47. I'm at 46, just through those trees. Been coming here for years. It's my favorite spot in the whole forest." I glanced in the direction she'd pointed but couldn't see any clearing or RV through the dense undergrowth. "I'm Martha," she said, extending a weathered hand. Claire shook it immediately. "Claire, this is David." I shook her hand too. Her grip was strong, stronger than I expected, and her skin was cool despite the warmth of the morning. "You two enjoy your hike," Martha said, "but be careful on the eastern loop. Trail gets a bit washed out this time of year. Stick to the main path and you'll be fine." "Thanks for the tip," Claire said. As we walked away, I glanced back once. Martha was still sitting on the log, but she wasn't watching us. She was looking up at the canopy, her head tilted at an odd angle like she was listening to something. "She seemed nice," Claire said. "Yeah," I agreed, though something about the encounter had left me slightly uneasy. I couldn't put my finger on it. The hike itself was uneventful. We talked about work, about the house we'd been thinking about buying, about whether we wanted kids someday. Big topics we'd been avoiding. The trail was well maintained and we saw 2 other couples along the way, which somehow made me feel better. We weren't completely alone out here. We got back to the RV around 1 p.m. I was thinking about lunch when Claire stopped short. "Look," she said, pointing. On our small folding table outside, someone had left a covered dish. There was a note tucked under it, written in shaky cursive. "Welcome to the forest. Thought you might enjoy some homemade cornbread. Martha, Site 46. "That's so sweet," Claire said, lifting the foil. The cornbread looked fresh, still slightly warm, and smelled incredible. I looked around. The forest was quiet. When did she have time to do this? She probably dropped it off while we were hiking. But we just saw her on the trail. Claire shrugged. Maybe she took a shortcut back, or maybe she left it before we saw her. That didn't quite make sense, but I let it go. Claire was already breaking off a piece of cornbread, and when she offered me some, I took it. It was good. Really good. That afternoon we just relaxed. Read books, napped, listened to the forest. Around 5 p.m., as we were starting to think about dinner, I heard footsteps outside. Martha appeared at the edge of our site carrying a small covered pot. "Hello again," she called out. "Hope I'm not intruding. I made too much stew and thought you might like some. It's a long drive to get food out here." Claire jumped up immediately. "Martha, that's so thoughtful, and thank you for the cornbread. It was delicious." Martha beamed. "Oh, I'm so glad you enjoyed it. I love baking, but there's only so much one person can eat." She handed the pot to Claire, and they chatted for a few minutes about the forest, about the weather, about nothing in particular. I stayed by the fire pit, watching. There was something about the way Martha moved, a slight hesitation in her gestures like she was thinking carefully before each action. Like an actress who'd rehearsed her lines but not quite enough. "You should come by my site for coffee tomorrow morning," Martha said. "I've got a proper camping setup. It puts these newfangled RVs to shame." She said it with a laugh, but there was something pointed about it. "We'd love that," Claire said before I could respond. After Martha left, walking back into the trees in the direction she'd indicated was Site 46, Claire turned to me with a smile. "See? Not everyone in the world is terrible." "She's nice," I admitted. "But doesn't it seem a little much? The cornbread and now the stew?" "She's just being neighborly," Claire said. "This is what people do in places like this. It's not like the city." She was probably right. I was being paranoid. We heated up the stew on our camp stove. It was thick and savory, full of venison and root vegetables, and ate it while the sun set behind the trees. That night, I woke up again to find Claire at the window. This time she was standing pressed against the glass looking out into the darkness. "Claire," I whispered. She didn't respond. I got up and touched her shoulder. She jumped, turning to me with wide eyes. "Jesus, David, you scared me." "You okay? You're at the window again." She looked confused. "What do you mean again?" "Last night you were looking out too. Said you heard something." "I don't remember that." She rubbed her eyes. I thought I saw a light out there, through the trees." I looked out the window. Nothing but darkness and the vague shapes of tree trunks. "Probably just an animal's eyes reflecting," I said. "Probably." But she didn't move away from the window for a long time. Saturday morning we walked to Site 46 to have coffee with Martha. I'd checked our printed map before we left. Site 46 should have been almost directly adjacent to ours, just through a thin line of trees, but we walked for nearly 10 minutes following Martha's directions from the day before we found it. Her campsite was old-fashioned, like she'd said. A vintage trailer that looked like it was from the 60s, olive green with rounded edges, lanterns hanging from tree branches, a proper campfire setup with a grate suspended over the flames. It looked like a photograph from another era. Martha was waiting for us, already pouring coffee from a blue enamel pot. "Right on time," she said. "I love people who are punctual." We sat on logs she'd arranged around the fire. The coffee was strong and good, and Martha had more cornbread, this time with honey. "How long have you been coming here?" Claire asked. "Oh, years and years," Martha said vaguely. "Lost my husband back in '98, and I started coming out here to think. Found it peaceful. Now I come whenever I can." "I'm sorry about your husband," Claire said softly. Martha waved a hand. "Long time ago now. We all lose people, don't we? That's just life." Something about the way she said it made me look at Claire. She'd gone very still, her coffee cup halfway to her lips. "What was his name?" Claire asked. "Robert," Martha said. "Good man, loved the outdoors." She looked directly at me. "You remind me of him a bit, the quiet type, the thinkers." I shifted uncomfortably. We stayed for about an hour. Martha was a good storyteller. She had anecdotes about the forest, about wildlife she'd seen, about other campers she'd met over the years. But I noticed something odd. Whenever Claire asked her a specific question, where exactly she lived when she wasn't camping or what she did before retiring, Martha would deflect. Not obviously, but skillfully, turning the conversation back to us or to some general observation about nature. As we were leaving, Martha took Claire's hand. "You have such a kind energy, dear. Don't ever lose that." Claire blushed. "Thank you." Walking back, and it only took 5 minutes this time, which I tried not to think about, Claire was quiet. "You okay?" I asked. "Yeah, She's lonely, isn't she?" "You can tell." "I guess so." "It must be hard coming out here alone year after year." That afternoon, Claire wanted to explore more of the forest. I was feeling tired and told her I'd stay back, maybe work on some code I'd brought along. She looked disappointed but didn't push it. "I'll just do a short walk," she said. "Be back in an hour." I watched her head toward the trail, and then I pulled out my laptop. The battery was still good, and I had plenty of offline work to catch up on. I'd been coding for maybe 30 minutes when I heard voices. At first I thought Claire had come back early, but when I looked out the RV window I saw her standing at the edge of our site with Martha. They were talking, but they were too far away for me to hear what they were saying. I watched for a moment. Claire was nodding, listening intently to something Martha was telling her. Then Martha pointed deeper into the woods, and Claire looked in that direction. I should have gone out there. I should have interrupted. But something stopped me. Maybe not wanting to seem overprotective, maybe not wanting to be rude. So I went back to my laptop. When Claire came back half an hour later, she was flushed and smiling. "Martha showed me this amazing spot," she said. "There's a creek about 15 minutes in, and there are these huge cypress trees. David, it's beautiful. We should go together tomorrow." "What happened to your walk?" "I ran into Martha on the trail. She said she was heading to the creek and invited me along." I closed my laptop. "She seems to be around a lot. She's just being friendly. Doesn't it seem weird to you? How much attention she's paying to us?" Claire's smile faded. "Why are you being like this?" "Like what?" "Suspicious. Negative. We come out here to relax and you're acting like a friendly old woman is some kind of threat." "I'm not saying she's a threat, I'm just saying it's a little odd." "You know what's odd?" Claire said, her voice rising slightly. "How you can't just accept that someone might be nice without having an ulterior motive. Not everyone is out to get you, David." It was the first real argument we'd had since arriving, and it felt like a door closing. Claire went for another walk, alone this time, and didn't come back until dark. We ate dinner in near silence. I heated up cans of soup while Claire sat outside by the fire pit staring into the flames. When I brought her a bowl, she took it without looking at me. "I'm sorry," I said finally. "You're right. I'm being paranoid." She looked up at me, and in the firelight, her face seemed softer, younger. "It's okay. I know you get like this, especially this time of year." She meant because of my mom, because of what happened before she died, the paranoia, the accusations, the way she'd become convinced that people were trying to hurt her, the way she'd looked at me near the end like I was a stranger. "That's not what this is," I said, but even as I said it, I wondered. That night I woke up and Claire wasn't in bed. I checked my phone, 3:17 a.m. The RV door was slightly ajar, letting in the cool night air. I found her outside, standing at the edge of our site, looking into the trees. "Claire." She didn't turn. "Claire," I said again, louder, and this time she looked at me. In the moonlight, her face was blank, empty. "Come back to bed," I said, trying to keep my voice calm. "She's calling me," Claire said. "Who's calling you?" "Martha. She needs help." "There's no one calling you. Come inside." For a long moment she just stared at me, and I had the horrible thought that she was going to turn and walk into the forest anyway. But then she blinked and something came back into her face. "Sorry," she said. "I was sleepwalking. I used to do that as a kid." She'd never mentioned that before. Back in bed, I lay awake listening to her breathe, trying to convince myself that everything was fine. Sunday morning, Claire said she wanted to visit Martha again. "Why?" I asked. "I just want to say goodbye properly. We're leaving tomorrow." We hadn't actually decided we were leaving tomorrow. The rental was for a week, but I didn't correct her. "I'll come with you," I said. "You don't have to." "I want to." We set out toward Site 46, following the path we'd taken before. But this time, we walked for 20 minutes without finding it. The trees all looked the same, and the path, such as it was, seemed to loop back on itself. "This is where it was," Claire said, stopping in a small clearing. "I'm sure of it." But there was nothing there. No vintage trailer, no campfire setup, no signs anyone had ever camped there at all. Maybe we took a wrong turn, I said. We tried again, this time starting over from our site. Same result. We walked in circles for an hour and Site 46 didn't exist. This doesn't make sense, Claire said. She looked genuinely distressed. We were just there yesterday. Let's go back to the main office, I suggested. Ask them for directions. We drove the RV back to the entrance. The same teenage kid was there, playing on his phone. Excuse me, I said. We're trying to find Site 46, the woman camping there, Martha. We wanted to say goodbye before we leave. The kid looked up. Site 46? Yeah, it's supposed to be near Site 47 where we are. He pulled out a laminated map and traced his finger along it. Sir, there is no Site 46. The numbers go 44, 45, 47, 48. There's a gap because 46 got decommissioned like 10 years ago after a tree fell on it. It's not safe to camp there anymore. The blood drained from my face. That's impossible. We visited her there, multiple times. The kid was looking at me like I was crazy. I don't know what to tell you. Nobody's been in Site 46 for a decade. It's all blocked off with warning tape. Claire grabbed my arm. David, let's just go. In the RV driving back to Site 47, neither of us spoke. My hands were shaking on the steering wheel. There has to be an explanation, Claire said finally. Maybe the kid was wrong. Maybe the map is outdated. Or maybe Martha's not camping in an official site. Then where did we have coffee? I didn't have an answer. Back at our site, I insisted we check one more time. We walked into the woods, and this time I marked our path with strips of paper torn from a notebook. We walked for 30 minutes, checking and rechecking, and finally we found it. The clearing where Site 46 should have been. And it was destroyed. The vintage trailer was there, but it was a rusted hulk, collapsed on one side, windows broken. The campfire area was overgrown with weeds. Dead leaves filled every surface. This place hadn't been used in years. Claire made a sound like she was going to be sick. I walked closer to the trailer and peered through a broken window. Inside was chaos, rotted fabric, mold, debris. And on what remained of a small table, I saw something that made my stomach turn. A blue enamel coffee pot. Rusty, covered in moss, but unmistakably the same one Martha had poured from. David. Claire's voice was faint. Look at this. She was standing near what had once been the campfire, pointing down. There, arranged in a careful circle around the pit, were stones, and carved into each stone was a name. Robert, Margaret, Susan, James, Patricia. There were dozens of them, maybe more. And at the end, freshly carved, barely visible under a thin layer of moss. Claire. I grabbed her hand. We're leaving, right now. But, now. We ran back to our site. I threw everything into the RV with shaking hands while Claire stood outside, staring into the trees. She was trying to help me, Claire said. I could feel it. She wanted me to understand something. Claire? She's not real. Or she's dead. Or, I don't know what she is, but we need to leave. She told me things, David. About myself. About us. Things she couldn't have known. I stopped packing. What things? That I'm afraid you'll leave me. That I'm afraid I'm not enough for you, that I... Her voice broke. That I sometimes think about what it would be like if I just disappeared. If I just walked into the forest and never came back. Jesus, Claire. She said she understood. She said the forest understands. I crossed to her and grabbed her shoulders. Listen to me. Whatever she said, whatever you think she is, we are leaving. Pack your things. We're going home. For a moment I thought she would fight me. But then she nodded and we finished packing in silence. By the time we pulled out of Site 47, it was past 4 p.m. The sun was already starting to set, earlier than it should have been. We'd been driving for maybe 10 minutes when Claire said, David, we passed that tree before. What tree? That one, with the split trunk. We just passed it 5 minutes ago. I slowed down. She was right. The tree looked familiar. The road must loop, I said. but my voice sounded uncertain even to me. We kept driving. The forest pressed in on both sides, darker than before. The GPS was useless, no signal. The printed map showed a straight road, but we kept seeing the same landmarks. The split tree, a fallen log, a particular curve. "We're going in circles," Claire whispered. I pulled over. My hands were cramping from gripping the wheel too hard. Okay, let's think about this logically. The road has to lead out. We'll just keep going until... David. Claire's voice was strange, dreamy. Look. Through the windshield, standing in the middle of the road about 50 feet ahead, was Martha. She was smiling, waving. "Drive," Claire said. "What?" "Drive through her. She's not real." I pressed the accelerator. The RV lurched forward. Martha didn't move. She just kept waving, that smile fixed on her face. We were 10 feet away. 5 feet. I closed my eyes. There was no impact. When I opened them, the road ahead was empty. But in the rearview mirror, Martha was still there, standing in the middle of the road, watching us go. We drove until we burst out onto the main road, and then I didn't stop until we hit the interstate. Claire didn't speak. She just stared out the window, and occasionally I would see her lips moving, like she was having a conversation with someone I couldn't hear. We made it back to Atlanta around 2 a.m. I parked the RV in our driveway and sat there for a long time before I could make myself get out. Claire went inside without a word. That was 6 weeks ago. Claire's still here physically. She goes to work. She eats dinner. She sleeps beside me. But she's not here. She doesn't talk much anymore. When she does, her responses are slightly off, like she's reading from a script she doesn't quite understand. She smiles at the wrong times. Last week I caught her standing at our bedroom window at 3 a.m., staring out at our suburban street like she was looking for something. Sometimes I hear her talking when she thinks I'm not around, having one-sided conversations with someone who isn't there. Yesterday I checked our photos from the trip. There are pictures of the forest, of our campsite, of Claire smiling by the fire pit. But there are also 3 photos that I don't remember taking. They're all of Claire at Martha's campsite, sitting by the fire, holding the blue coffee pot standing next to the vintage trailer. Except in these photos, Martha is there too, standing right behind Claire, her hands on Claire's shoulders. And the trailer isn't rusted. The campsite isn't abandoned. In the photos, it all looks new. I showed them to Claire. She looked at them for a long time and then she smiled. "She was so kind," Claire said. "I'm glad we met her." Claire, she wasn't real. Of course she was real. Claire handed me back the phone. "I'm going to visit her again soon. She invited me back." "What?" "Last night. She called me. She says there's something she forgot to show me. Something in the creek. Something beautiful." I locked our bedroom door that night. I woke up at 3 a.m. to find Claire trying the handle, over and over, in complete silence. She gave up after an hour and went back to bed. This morning I checked her phone while she was in the shower. The call log shows dozens of incoming calls over the past 6 weeks, all from the same number. I tried calling it back. The voice that answered was elderly, warm, familiar. "Hello, David," Martha said. "I've been waiting for your call. Claire told me you've been worried." I hung up. My hands were shaking so hard I dropped the phone. When Claire came out of the bathroom, she looked at me and tilted her head in that odd way Martha used to do. "You shouldn't have looked at my phone," she said. "That's private." "How did you know I—" "She told me you would. She tells me everything." Claire smiled. "Don't worry, David. Soon you'll understand too." Martha says there's room for both of us. We just have to go back. I called in sick to work. I've been watching Claire all day, afraid to let her out of my sight. But I'm writing this now because I have to sleep sometime. And I know that when I do, she'll go to the window. She'll listen for Martha calling. And one morning I'm going to wake up, and Claire will be gone. Or maybe something wearing Claire's face will still be here, smiling that wrong smile, asking me when we're going back to Ocala. The worst part is I pulled up the photos again. In every single one, in the reflection of the RV's windows, I can see someone standing behind me too, watching, waiting. But in person, I never saw anyone there at all. I keep telling myself that Martha wasn't real. That Site 46 was abandoned long before we arrived. But if she wasn't real, then what is wearing my girlfriend's face? And what is standing behind me in every mirror, every window, every reflective surface I pass? Claire just asked me what I'm writing. She's reading over my shoulder now, she's smiling. You should tell them about the invitation, she says, about how Martha wants to meet your mom. She says she can help you talk to her again. Doesn't that sound nice? I haven't told anyone that my mother is dead. Claire knows. But whatever is speaking through Claire's mouth, using her voice, it knows too. We're going back next weekend, Claire says, and her hand, cold, so cold, rests on my shoulder. Martha's waiting. She has so much to show us. Doesn't that sound wonderful? And God help me, part of me wants to say yes. Part of me wants to drive back to Site 47 and walk into those woods and find out what Martha really is, what she really wants, why she carved Claire's name into that stone. Part of me wants to understand. But I'm writing this instead, and I'm going to post it somewhere, anywhere, so that someone knows. If you're planning to camp in Ocala National Forest, stay away from Site 47. Stay away from Road C. And if you meet a friendly old woman named Martha, who invites you to Site 46 for coffee, don't go, don't listen. Don't let her look in your eyes and tell you she understands. Because she does understand. That's the worst part. She understands exactly what you're afraid of, exactly what you want, exactly how to make you follow her into the woods. And once you do, you never really leave. I know that now. I knew it the moment I saw Claire's name on that stone. The moment I realized all those names in the circle were people who had disappeared. People who had followed Martha into the forest and came back wrong, or didn't come back at all. Claire's still reading over my shoulder, still smiling. Are you done? She asks. Because Martha's calling. Can't you hear her? I can't hear anything but the normal sounds of our house. The refrigerator humming. A car passing on the street. The normal world going on, oblivious. But Claire tilts her head, listening to something I can't hear. She says to tell you there's a stone waiting for you too, Claire whispers. With your name already carved, isn't that thoughtful? She thinks of everything. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know if I can save Claire or if Claire is already gone. I don't know if I should run or stay or go back to that forest and try to understand what happened to us. All I know is that every night I stand at our bedroom window at 3 a.m., and I look out at the dark street, and I swear I can see her, Martha, standing under the streetlights, smiling, waving, waiting. And the terrible thing, the thing that keeps me awake even when I'm too exhausted to think clearly anymore, is that part of me wants to wave back. Part of me wants to go to her. Part of me thinks that maybe, just maybe, if I follow Martha into the dark, I'll finally understand what happened to my mother in those last years. I'll understand what it's like to slip away from yourself, piece by piece, until someone else is looking out through your eyes. Maybe that's what Martha offers. Not death. Not even horror exactly. Just the absence of yourself. The relief of letting go. Of letting something else carry the weight of being human. Claire just took my hand. Her skin is ice cold. Come to bed, she says softly. You need rest. We have a long drive next weekend. And God help me, I'm going to follow her. Because I don't know what else to do. Because I'm tired. Because maybe Martha has the answers I've been looking for since I watched my mother disappear into the fog of her own failing mind. Or maybe I'm just trying to justify what I already know is going to happen. Next weekend, we'll pack up. We'll rent another RV. We'll drive back to Ocala National Forest. We'll park at Site 47. And we'll walk through the trees until we find Site 46. And Martha will be there waiting, with her blue enamel coffee pot and her too wide smile and her promises that we'll finally understand. And maybe we will. Or maybe there will just be 2 more names carved in stone. 2 more people who followed a friendly old woman into the woods and never really came back. I'm posting this now, before I lose my nerve. Before Claire convinces me that everything is fine. that Martha is just a kind old woman, that the forest is beautiful and welcoming and safe. Before I forget that none of it was real, or worse, before I start to believe it was. If anyone reads this, if anyone cares, please remember, my name is David Chen. I went camping with my girlfriend Claire in Ocala National Forest in October 2024. We met a woman named Martha at Site 46. She wasn't real, but now she won't leave us alone. And next weekend we're going back. I don't think we're coming home again. At least not the versions of us that left. Claire's calling from the bedroom now. Her voice sounds wrong. Too sweet. Too eager. David, are you coming? Martha wants to talk to you. She's holding her phone out to me. It's ringing. I know I shouldn't answer. I know I should throw the phone away, grab Claire, drive somewhere far from here, find help, find a hospital, find someone who can explain what's happening to us. But my hand is reaching for the phone, and I can hear Martha's voice already, warm and welcoming, before I even press it to my ear. Hello, David, she's saying. I've been waiting for you. We have so much to talk about, so much to show you. Come home, David. Come back to the forest. Come back to us. And I want to. I really, really want to. That's the worst part of all. My name is Grace Walker. This happened last September in Fish Lake National Forest, Utah. I'm writing this down because I need people to understand what happened, and because the police reports don't tell the whole story. They can't. I went with my boyfriend Marcus. We'd been planning the trip for months. One of those last-minute getaway ideas that actually stuck. Marcus worked in tech sales. Always stressed, always checking his phone. I was finishing my graduate thesis in anthropology. We needed to disconnect, or at least that's what we told ourselves. The RV we rented was a 28-foot Class C. White exterior, terrible mileage, but it had a queen bed and a working bathroom, which was all that mattered. We picked it up on a Thursday morning in Salt Lake City and drove south through increasingly empty roads until we reached the national forest. Fish Lake is huge, over 1 million acres of pine and aspen, with campgrounds scattered throughout. We picked one called Pigeon Creek because it had full hookups and the reviews said it was quiet. The woman at the rental place had marked it on our paper map, circling it with a red pen. Our phones had spotty reception once we left the main highway. We arrived around 4 in the afternoon. The campground had maybe 25 sites arranged in a rough oval, most of them empty. September is off-season. The few other campers we saw were retirees, people with expensive setups and satellite dishes mounted on their roofs. We got spot 17, which backed up against a thick line of pines. Marcus handled the hookups while I unpacked inside. Everything felt normal. The fridge worked. The propane was fine. We made sandwiches for dinner and sat outside in folding chairs, watching the sky turn purple through the trees. No service, Marcus said, holding up his phone. That's the point. I know. It's just weird. We stayed up late that first night talking about nothing important. Work gossip, mutual friends who were getting married or moving away. The temperature dropped fast after sunset, but we'd brought enough blankets. Around midnight, we went inside and locked the door. Marcus fell asleep immediately. He always did. I stayed awake longer, reading on my tablet until the battery got low. The RV made settling noises, creaks and pops as the metal contracted in the cold. Normal sounds. I turned off the light around 1:30 and closed my eyes. At 3:06 a.m., I heard music. It was faint, coming from somewhere outside. Piano music, specifically. Classical, though I couldn't identify the piece. The melody was slow and deliberate, each note hanging in the air before the next one began. I opened my eyes and lay still, listening. Marcus snored lightly beside me. The music continued for maybe 30 seconds, then stopped. I waited, but it didn't start again. I told myself it was another camper, someone watching a movie or listening to music with their windows open. Except it was 3 in the morning and the nearest RV was at least 100 feet away. Sound doesn't carry like that through forest. I didn't mention it to Marcus in the morning. He made coffee using the RV's machine, and we ate granola bars while planning the day. There was a hiking trail about 2 miles down the main road. an easy loop that supposedly had good views. We drove the RV there and spent most of the afternoon walking. The trail was well maintained, marked with wooden posts every quarter mile. We saw one other couple, older, with matching fleece vests and hiking poles. They nodded as they passed. The trees were starting to turn, patches of gold among the green. Marcus took photos on his phone, even though he couldn't post them anywhere. "This was a good idea," he said. "Yeah, we should do this more often." "We should." We got back to the campground around 5. 2 new RVs had arrived while we were gone, both parked on the far side of the loop. I didn't see anyone outside them. We cooked pasta on the propane stove and played cards until it got dark. That night, Marcus wanted to have sex. I wasn't really in the mood, but I went along with it. Afterward, he fell asleep with his arm across my chest. I had to shift him off before I could breathe properly. I lay awake again, staring at the ceiling. The RV had a skylight above the bed and I could see stars through it. Not as many as I'd expected. There was still light pollution from somewhere, maybe a town I hadn't noticed on the drive-in. At 3:06 a.m., the music started again. Same piece, same tempo. Piano notes drifting through the walls of the RV like they were coming from inside my head. I turned to look at Marcus, who was still asleep, his face pressed into the pillow. I got out of bed carefully and went to the window. The campground was dark, except for a single light pole near the entrance. I couldn't see any other RVs with lights on. The music played for about 40 seconds this time, then cut off abruptly in the middle of a phrase. I checked my phone. 3:07 a.m. No service as expected. I stood by the window for a few more minutes, waiting to see if it would start again. It didn't. Eventually, I went back to bed, but I didn't sleep. I just lay there listening to Marcus breathe and watching the stars through the skylight. In the morning, I asked him if he'd heard anything during the night. "Like what?" "Music, piano music." "No. When?" "Around 3. He shook his head. "I was out cold. You sure it wasn't a dream?" "I was awake. Maybe it was from one of the other campers. Maybe." We spent the day driving around the forest, stopping at scenic overlooks and taking short walks. The area was beautiful in that generic mountain forest way. Lots of trees, lots of sky, lots of emptiness. We saw a deer, which Marcus photographed extensively. We passed through a small town that had a gas station and a diner, but not much else. That evening, back at the campground, I noticed the RV next to ours had left. I hadn't seen them go. In fact, I couldn't remember seeing anyone actually in that RV at all. The site was just empty now, marked by tire tracks in the dirt. Marcus made chili for dinner. We ate outside again, bundled in jackets. The temperature was dropping faster each night. Other campfires dotted the area, 4 or 5 orange glows scattered around the loop. I couldn't see the people sitting by them, just the light. "You okay?" Marcus asked. "Yeah, why?" "You've been quiet." "I'm always quiet." "More than usual." I didn't know what to tell him, that I was listening for music, that I felt like something was off. Those weren't real complaints. Nothing had actually happened. "I'm fine," I said. "Just tired." We went inside around 9. Marcus wanted to watch something on his tablet, but the battery was low and he'd forgotten to charge it during the day. He plugged it in and read a paperback instead, some thriller he'd bought at the airport months ago and never finished. I tried to read too, but I couldn't focus. I kept checking my phone for the time. 9:47. 10. 23. 11. 15. "I'm going to sleep," Marcus said, closing his book. "Okay." He turned off the overhead light, leaving just the small lamp by my side of the bed. I sat there with my book open, pretending to read until he started snoring. Then I turned off the lamp and lay down in the dark. I didn't plan to stay awake. I actually wanted to sleep, but my body wouldn't cooperate. I was too aware of every sound, the wind moving through the pines, the occasional creak of the RV settling, Marcus's steady breathing beside me. At 3:06 a.m., I was staring at my phone when the music started. This time I was ready for it. I sat up slowly and listened. Same piano piece, same measured tempo. It was definitely coming from outside, somewhere beyond the walls of the RV. I got out of bed and moved to the window, looking out into the darkness. The campground was empty and still, no lights in any of the other RVs, no movement, just the music, playing from nowhere. I went to the door and unlocked it quietly. The metal was cold against my palm. I opened it a few inches and leaned out, trying to pinpoint the source of the sound. It was louder outside, but still directionless, like it was coming from the trees themselves, or from the ground. The melody continued, note after deliberate note, while I stood there in my t-shirt and underwear, shivering in the doorway. Then it stopped. The silence afterward was complete. No insects, no wind, nothing. Just dead air and the pounding of my heart in my ears. I closed the door and locked it. When I turned around, Marcus was sitting up in bed. "What are you doing?" he asked. I heard it again, the music. "What music?" "The piano. I told you yesterday." He rubbed his face. "Grace, there's no music, it's 3 a.m. I know what time it is, I heard it. You're probably, I'm not imagining it." He looked at me for a long moment, then lay back down. "Come back to bed." I didn't move. "You didn't hear it at all?" "No." "Not even a little?" "No. Please come back to bed." I got back into bed but stayed on top of the covers, staring at the ceiling. Marcus fell asleep quickly, his breathing evening out within minutes. I lay there until the sky started to lighten around 5:30, then finally dozed off. When I woke up, it was past 10 and Marcus was already dressed, sitting at the small table with his phone. "Morning," he said. "Morning. I got some service if I stand outside by that big pine tree." My mom called. "What did she want?" "Nothing important. I told her we'd call when we got back." I made coffee and drank it black, standing by the counter. My head felt thick from lack of sleep. Marcus watched me but didn't say anything about the previous night. We didn't have any plans for the day, so we just wandered around the campground. It was bigger than I'd realized. The sights wound back into the trees in a way that made it hard to see how many there actually were. We walked the full loop, which took about 15 minutes. I counted 7 occupied sites, including ours. At one point, we passed an older man sitting outside his RV in a lawn chair. He had a white beard and wore a canvas jacket. "Nice day," Marcus said. The man nodded. "You folks staying long?" "Just a few more days. Weather's supposed to turn, snow maybe." "In September?" "Elevation," the man said. "Gets cold up here fast." We kept walking. When we were out of earshot, Marcus said, "Friendly?" "I guess." That afternoon, we drove into the small town we'd passed through earlier. Marcus wanted to get more supplies, beer mostly and some snacks. The grocery store was tiny, just 3 aisles, but it had what we needed. The cashier was a teenage girl who didn't make eye contact. On the drive back, our GPS started acting strange. It kept recalculating the route, even though we were on a straight road with no turns. The blue dot representing our location would jump around the map, sometimes showing us miles away from where we actually were. "Piece of shit," Marcus said, tapping the screen. "It's probably the mountains. Signal's bad out here." We're literally on the main road. The GPS eventually settled down, and we made it back to the campground without any wrong turns. But it bothered me more than it should have. I kept thinking about the blue dot jumping around trying to find us. That evening, Marcus suggested we build a fire in the pit at our site. We gathered wood from the area, mostly fallen branches and pine cones, and used some newspaper from the RV to get it started. It took a while, but eventually we had a decent fire going. We sat in our folding chairs and watched it burn. The smoke kept shifting direction, blowing into my face no matter where I moved. "There's something I want to tell you," Marcus said. I waited. "I've been thinking about quitting my job." "Okay." "I'm serious, I hate it, I hate everything about it." "So quit." "It's not that simple, we have bills and my dad would—" He stopped. "Never mind. Forget it. You should do what makes you happy." "That's easy to say." We sat in silence. The fire popped and cracked. Somewhere in the distance, I heard what sounded like laughter, but when I looked around, I didn't see anyone. Marcus went inside around 8:30, saying he was cold. I stayed by the fire alone, feeding it occasionally with new wood. The flames made me sleepy in a way I hadn't felt in days. At some point, I must have dozed off in the chair because I woke up with a start to find the fire had burned down to embers. I checked my phone. 2:47 a.m. I'd been outside for over 6 hours. I stood up quickly, my joints stiff from sitting in the cold. The campground was completely dark now. All the other fires had gone out, and there were no lights anywhere. I couldn't even see the light pole by the entrance. I went to the RV door and tried the handle. Locked. I knocked softly. "Marcus?" No response. I knocked harder. "Marcus, let me in." Still nothing. I pulled out my phone and used the flashlight to check my pockets for the key. Not there. I must have left it inside. I knocked again, louder this time. "Marcus." The door unlocked and opened. Marcus stood there in his underwear, squinting against the light from my phone. "What? You locked me out." "What are you talking about? You've been in bed." "No, I was outside by the fire." He frowned. "Grace, you came in hours ago. We talked about you hearing music again. You were upset." "What? No. I fell asleep outside." "You're confused. Come inside. You're freezing." I looked down at my hands. They were red from the cold, my fingers numb. But I knew I'd been outside. I could still smell smoke in my hair. I went inside anyway. Marcus locked the door behind me and got back into bed. I stood in the narrow aisle trying to piece together what had happened. "What time did I come in?" I asked. "I don't know. 10, maybe? You were acting weird." "Weird how?" "Just not yourself. Can we talk about this in the morning?" I got into bed without changing my clothes. My feet were blocks of ice against the sheets. Marcus was already asleep again by the time I closed my eyes. At 3:06 a.m., the music started. I didn't move this time. I just lay there listening, staring at the ceiling. The piano notes came one after another, precise and measured, while Marcus slept beside me. The melody was longer this time. It played for almost 2 minutes before stopping. In the morning, I checked my phone's screen time. According to the data, I'd used my flashlight from 2:47 a.m. to 2:51 a.m., 4 minutes. Not enough time to fall asleep outside for 6 hours. Not enough time to be outside at all. If Marcus was right about me coming in at 10. But I remembered sitting by the fire. I remembered the smoke and the way the wood popped as it burned. I remembered feeling myself drift off. "You okay?" Marcus asked over breakfast. "Fine." "You were talking in your sleep again." "What did I say?" I couldn't make it out. Something about music, I think. I didn't respond. I ate my cereal and stared out the window at the campground. More RVs had arrived overnight. I counted at least 3 new ones, but I hadn't heard them pull in. I hadn't heard anything except that piano. We spent the day hiking again, this time on a different trail. This one was longer, rated as moderate difficulty, winding up the side of a ridge. The views were better than the first trail, but I had trouble enjoying them. My legs felt weak, like I hadn't slept in days, which technically I hadn't. Marcus kept stopping to take photos. He'd crouch down to get the right angle, framing trees or rocks or patches of sky. It took forever. "Do you ever feel like we're being watched?" I asked at one point. He lowered his phone. "What?" "Nothing, never mind." "That's a weird thing to say." "I know." We kept walking. The trail climbed steadily, switchbacking through dense pine. I focused on putting one foot in front of the other, trying not to think about the music or the missing hours, or the way Marcus insisted I'd been inside when I knew I'd been out. Near the top of the ridge, we came across a wooden sign someone had carved with a knife. It said, "Turn back." Marcus laughed. Dramatic. "Maybe we should. It's just kids messing around." "Maybe." We kept going. The trail leveled out at the ridge, following the spine of the mountain for about half a mile before looping back down. The wind was stronger up here, constant and cold. I pulled my jacket tighter. On the way down, I thought I heard piano music drifting up from the valley below. I stopped walking. "What?" Marcus asked. "Do you hear that?" He listened. Trees, wind. Right, but I heard it. Faint but unmistakable. That same measured melody floating up through the forest. I started walking faster, almost jogging down the trail, trying to get away from it. "Grace, slow down," Marcus called. I didn't slow down. I kept moving until the sound faded, replaced by my own ragged breathing and the crunch of gravel under my boots. We got back to the RV around 4. I went straight inside and lay down on the bed, exhausted. Marcus came in a few minutes later and started making dinner, but I couldn't eat. I just lay there staring at the ceiling, feeling the RV sway slightly whenever Marcus moved around. "You should eat something," he said. "I'm not hungry. You didn't eat lunch either." "I'll eat later." He brought me a bowl of soup anyway. I forced down a few spoonfuls to make him happy, then set it aside. The rest went cold on the nightstand. That night I decided to stay awake on purpose. I wanted to see if the music would come if I was actively listening for it. I sat up in bed with my phone, watching the time tick forward. Marcus slept beside me, his face peaceful in the dim glow from the screen. 3:04 a.m. 3:05 a.m. 3:06 a.m. The music started. But this time something was different. The melody was the same, but there was something else underneath it. A voice, low and indistinct, speaking or singing along with the notes. I couldn't make out words, just the rhythm of speech matching the piano. I got out of bed and went to the window. The campground looked the same as always. Dark, still, empty. The voice got louder, rising above the piano until I could almost understand it. Almost. The words were right there, hovering just beyond comprehension, like trying to remember something from a dream. Then it stopped. I waited, but nothing else happened. The silence felt oppressive, pressing in from all sides. I got back into bed and lay there until dawn, not sleeping, just existing in that dead space between sleep and waking. In the morning, Marcus was gone. Not gone. His phone was still on the table, and his shoes were by the door. But he wasn't in the RV. I called his name, no response. I got dressed quickly and went outside. The campground was quiet. I walked around our site, then expanded my search to the nearby area. No sign of him. I checked my phone. 7:42 a.m. He wouldn't have gone far without his shoes. I went back inside and looked around more carefully. His jacket was still hung on the hook by the door. His wallet was on the table next to his phone. Everything was there except him. I sat down and tried to think rationally. He'd probably just gone to the bathroom. The campground had a small bathroom facility near the entrance. That made sense. He'd be back soon. I waited. 8:15 a.m. Still no Marcus. I put on my jacket and walked to the bathroom. The door was unlocked, but the lights were off. I flipped them on and checked the stalls. Empty. On the way back, I passed the old man with the white beard. He was sitting outside his RV again, drinking coffee from a metal mug. "Morning," he said. "Have you seen my boyfriend? Tall, dark hair?" He shook his head. "Just you. He went out this morning without his shoes. I can't find him." The man sipped his coffee. "People get turned around sometimes. Forest's bigger than it looks. He wouldn't go into the forest without shoes. You'd be surprised what people do." I kept walking. At our site, I checked inside the RV again, even though I knew he wasn't there. Then I just stood outside, looking at the trees, trying to decide what to do. My phone had 1 bar of service. I tried calling Marcus, but his phone just rang inside the RV until it went to voicemail. At 9:30, I decided to check the main road. Maybe he'd walked down to the entrance for some reason. I followed the loop around the campground, passing the other occupied sites. No one was outside except the old man, who was still sitting in his chair watching me. The main road was empty. I walked down at about half a mile in each direction, calling Marcus's name. My voice sounded small and ridiculous in the vast emptiness of the forest. I went back to the RV and sat at the table, staring at his phone. The screen was locked. I didn't know his passcode. At 11:00 a.m., Marcus walked up to the RV and opened the door. "Hey," he said. I stood up so fast I knocked over my water bottle. "Where the fuck were you?" "What do you mean?" "You've been gone for hours. I looked everywhere." He frowned. "I went for a walk. I told you I was going." "No, you didn't. You were just gone when I woke up." "Grace, we talked about it. You were half asleep, but you said okay." "I don't remember that." "You need to see someone when we get back. This isn't normal." I wanted to argue, but I couldn't because maybe he was right. Maybe I was losing time, losing memories. Maybe the music wasn't real at all. "I'm sorry," I said. "It's okay. I'm worried about you." He made lunch, sandwiches with the last of our bread. I ate mine mechanically, not tasting it. Marcus kept glancing at me like I was something fragile that might break. That afternoon I took a nap. I didn't mean to, but exhaustion pulled me under and I slept hard and dreamlessly for 3 hours. When I woke up, it was almost dark outside. Marcus was sitting at the table reading his book. "Feel better?" "A little. We should probably head back tomorrow. The weather's supposed to get bad." "Okay." I didn't want to stay anymore anyway. I wanted to go home, back to our apartment where things made sense, where I could sleep without hearing music, where I could remember what happened from one moment to the next. We packed that evening, loading our bags and securing everything for the drive. Marcus seemed relieved to be leaving. He whistled while he worked, something he only did when he was in a good mood. We went to bed early, planning to get up at dawn and start the drive back. I lay there in the dark listening to Marcus breathe, knowing what was coming. At 3:06 a.m. the music started, but this time I could understand the voice. It was singing in English now, the words clear and distinct beneath the piano melody. "Grace is here and grace is there. Grace is wandering everywhere. Grace can't sleep and grace won't wake. Grace belongs to the forest lake." I sat up. Marcus didn't move. The singing continued, verse after verse, always my name woven through the lyrics. I got out of bed and went to the window, but I already knew what I'd see. Nothing, just darkness and trees. The song ended. The piano kept playing for a few more measures, then stopped. I stood there in the silence, my reflection barely visible in the glass, and then I saw it. My reflection blinked before I did. I stepped back from the window. My reflection stayed where it was for a fraction of a second, then moved to match me, like it was on a delay, like it was following me instead of mirroring me. I turned away and got back into bed. I didn't look at the window again. In the morning, we left the campground at 6:30 before the sun was fully up. Marcus drove while I sat in the passenger seat staring out at the passing trees. The GPS worked fine on the way out, showing our location accurately on the main highway. We stopped for gas in the same small town as before. While Marcus was inside paying, I stayed in the RV and checked my phone. I had full service now, and messages started flooding in. Texts from friends, emails, notifications from apps I'd forgotten I had. One text was from Marcus, sent 3 days ago. "Can you call me when you get this? We need to talk about something." I stared at the message. We'd been together for 3 days. He'd been right next to me. When would he have sent this? I opened the thread. The message showed as sent on Tuesday at 2:17 p.m., but we'd been at the campground since Thursday, unless we hadn't. I scrolled up through our text history. The last message before that was from 2 weeks ago. Nothing during the trip. Nothing to indicate we'd been in contact at all. Marcus got back in the RV. "Ready?" "What day is it?" "Saturday. Why?" "What's the date?" "The 17th. You okay?" The 17th. We'd arrived on the 14th. That was Thursday. Today should be Sunday. But Marcus said it was Saturday. "I'm fine," I said. We drove for another hour before I noticed the music. It was coming from the speakers. Quiet, barely audible under the road noise, but definitely there. Piano music. That same melody. I reached over and turned off the radio. The music continued. Do you hear that? I asked. Marcus glanced at me. Hear what? The music. It's playing from somewhere. Grace. Don't. Just listen. He listened. I could see him concentrating, trying to hear what I was hearing. I don't hear anything, he said finally. The music played for another minute, then faded out. I sat back in my seat and watched the road unspool ahead of us. We got back to Salt Lake City around noon. Marcus returned the RV while I waited in our car. He came back 20 minutes later looking tired. They said we brought it back a day early, he said. What? The rental. We were supposed to have it until tomorrow, but we brought it back today. That doesn't make sense. Today is Saturday. Yeah, and we rented it Thursday through Sunday. We left on Thursday. Right. I didn't say anything else. I couldn't explain it, and I was too tired to try. We drove home. A 6-hour trip that felt like it took days. Marcus played music from his phone, regular music with lyrics I recognized. I dozed on and off, waking periodically to find us on different stretches of highway, the landscape changing from mountains to desert to suburbs. We got to our apartment building around 6 p.m. Marcus parked, and we unloaded our bags. Everything felt surreal, like I was moving through water. Inside the apartment, I went straight to the bedroom and lay down. Marcus came in a few minutes later and sat on the edge of the bed. I'm worried about you, he said. I know. I think you should talk to someone. A doctor, maybe. Maybe. I'm serious. The things you've been saying, the confusion about time, it's not normal. I know. He left me alone after that. I heard him moving around the apartment, putting away our gear, starting a load of laundry. Normal domestic sounds that should have been comforting but just felt distant. I fell asleep at some point and woke up in complete darkness. I checked my phone. 3:06 a.m. I waited. The music started. Piano, clear as if it was playing right next to me. The same melody, the same voice underneath singing words I could almost understand. Marcus was asleep beside me. I didn't wake him. I just lay there listening until it stopped. That was 3 months ago. The music plays every night at 3:06 a.m. Sometimes it's loud, sometimes it's barely a whisper. But it's always there. I've tried recording it, but the recordings are just silence. I've tried staying at friends' houses, at hotels, even sleeping in my car. The music follows. Marcus moved out last month. He said he couldn't handle it anymore. Me waking up every night at the same time, insisting I heard something he couldn't. He said I needed help and he couldn't watch me refuse to get it. I did see a doctor. 2 doctors, actually. One prescribed sleeping pills. The other suggested it might be tinnitus and referred me to an audiologist. The audiologist found nothing wrong with my hearing. The music still plays. I've been researching Fish Lake National Forest. There's nothing about music or ghosts or anything supernatural. Just normal forest information. Wildlife, trees, camping regulations. Nothing that would explain what happened. But I found something else. In the obituaries for a small town near the forest, there's a listing from 2003 for a woman named Grace Marie Walker. She was 28. The notice says she died in a camping accident at Fish Lake National Forest. No other details. I'm 31. My middle name is Marie. I don't know what that means. I don't know if it means anything at all. But every night at 3:06 a.m. I hear the piano, and sometimes when I'm alone in my apartment I see my reflection move before I do. Just a split second of delay, like it's figuring out what I'm about to do before copying me. I've started staying up through the night, sleeping during the day. It's easier that way. The music still comes, but at least I don't have to wake up to it. At least I can be ready. I'm writing this down because I need people to know what happened. Because I'm starting to lose track of days again. Because I looked at my phone this morning and realized I have 2 versions of my text history with Marcus. One where we broke up last month, and one where we're still together. Both seem equally real. I don't know which one is true anymore. Last night, or this morning, technically, the music played as usual at 3:06. But this time, when it stopped, I heard footsteps outside my apartment door. Slow, deliberate footsteps, stopping right outside. I waited for a knock. It never came. I waited for the footsteps to leave. They didn't. I finally opened the door at 4:30 a.m. The hallway was empty, but there was a small piece of paper on the floor torn from a notebook. It had one word written on it in careful handwriting. Listen. I still have the note. I'm looking at it now, sitting on my couch at 2:58 a.m., waiting for 3:06 to arrive. The piano will start soon. The voice will sing. And I'll listen, like I do every night, trying to understand what it wants from me. Because I'm starting to think the music isn't following me. I'm starting to think I never left Fish Lake at all. There's a mark on my arm that wasn't there before. A small circular bruise, right where an IV line would go. Marcus doesn't have any memory of me being injured or going to a hospital. But the bruise is there, fading slowly over the past few weeks. And sometimes when I look in the mirror, I see pine trees in the background. Just for a second, before they resolve back into my apartment walls. It's 3:05 a.m. now. I can hear it starting, that first note, tentative and alone, before the melody builds. The piano is playing. The voice is singing. And this time I think I understand what it's saying. My name is Grace Walker, and I don't know if I'm alive.